And a few announcements. First, we will be recording this entire session, entire webinar, uh, so that I want you to be aware of that. Mm. And then the other thing is, for if we have any Spanish speaking participants here, we have a translation or interpretation service available here. Uh, and if you are not hearing me, just make sure under interpretation, you have to select English in order to in order to hear. And if you want to hear in Spanish, make sure you select Spanish. Okay. Uh, Otherwise, you will not be hear our interpreter. Um, yeah, and let's begin our today's session. Again, I want to say thank you for those who are just joining. Uh, since we don't have a lot of people, so what I am thinking is maybe introduce ourselves. Just say your name, where you are from, and what organization you are with. Uh, I will I will begin with myself. My name is Sankar Rai. I am a Summer Service Program National Coordinator, and right now I'm speaking from the basement of my house, which is in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Laura?
Hi, my name is Laura Pauls Thomas. I work for MCC and I'm the East Coast Summer Service Coordinator, also based in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Kevin and Mickey?
I am Kevin. I'm from Camp Deer Park in New York. I am in the dining room of Camp Deer Park, and I'm the program director. I think I said that.
Mickey?
Yeah, my name is Mickey. I am a youth coordinator at the Ethiopian Church of Denver. Yeah, obviously in Denver, Colorado. Work with the high school students primarily, and I've been on both sides of, the MCC summer service, but we'll talk about that.
Mike, Suzanne, Carol, and Taylor.
Sure. Greetings, Mike Rea, also with MCC with the PLDR department. I'll share more about that in a bit, based out in Central California.
I'm Carol Rose. I'm one of the co-pastors of Shalom Mennonite Fellowship in Tucson, Arizona.
My name is Suzanne. I am the program director at Pine Lake Fellowship Camp in Meridian, Mississippi.
Taylor?
Hi, my name is Taylor. I'm the Assistant Director of Spiritual Formation at Fresno Pacific University.
Okay, next, Marisol, Brian, Tina, and Glenn.
My name is Marisol Santos, and I am the Director of Student and Family Engagement at the Mix at Arbor Place in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Brian?
Hi, Brian Davis. I serve at Fresno Pacific as the campus chaplain with Taylor, who's on this call.
I'm Tina Schleba, co-pastor with Carol at Shalom Mennonite in Tucson, Arizona. We've never participated yet in the summer service program, so we're excited to learn more about it. We have Congolese families in our church and some Latino young adults.
Glenn.
Hi, I'm Glenn Kaufman. I'm pastor at Capital Christian Fellowship, which is an international congregation in the suburbs of Washington, D.C.
Jeff, Jeffrey, Kiona, and Austin.
Hi, my name is Jeffrey. I'm
I guess.
Hey, my name is Austin. My name is Austin Martinez, and I don't really know what we're doing right now. I just came in, so I think we're doing introductions, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So my name is Austin. I'm from New York, the Bronx, and that's pretty much it. So, I mean,
How about Jeff, Kiona, and Jeffrey? Introduce yourself.
Sorry for the technical difficulties. Yeah, I'm I'm the worship group leader at the Brooklyn Evangelical Church, which is located in Brooklyn, New York. Um, yeah, and this is my first time in a summer services meeting, so I'm glad to be here.
And I'm Kiana Bowman, the executive director from the Mix at Arbor Place in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Hey, I'm Jeff, pastor in New Hope Community Church in Charleston, West Virginia, Mosaic Mennonite Conference.
Wow, thank you very much. It's a dynamic group of people. And did you realize that how many people are from all over the country, from East Coast to West Coast, from North to South? And this is, and I see there are some people who have been with MCC for a long time, MCC Summer Service Program, and who are just new, trying to experience for the first time. So welcome again, and I want to thank you for joining, taking part of your time and being with us. Without any further delay, I would like to introduce our very dynamic leader and presenter and very dear friend of mine, Mike Rea. He is a learning and evaluation operating principal coordinator, DC, and he is from right now. He will be speaking from Fresno, California, and Mike support MCC country program and staff with project planning, monitoring, and evaluation with alignment to our MCC operating system. So, Mike, it's all your time.
Can you all hear me okay? Yeah, okay, I see some head nods. Great, I'm gonna share my screen with you. And if you've been with Summer Service Program for a while, hopefully a lot of what I'm saying will sound familiar. So I'm just gonna tell you a bit of what you already know. If you're new to this, I'm glad we have some West Coast folks like Carol and Tina over on the West Coast. Or part of West Coast MCC that are new. So it may be some new terminology, but the format itself, it'll be pretty basic. I'm gonna keep things very simple. You'll have access to the information of the presentation later on, along with a bit of a guide. And I'm simplifying it as much as possible, one, for the sake of timing, but two, because it's going to be recorded. And that way, folks that watch the recording after the fact can just get the meat of the presentation. I'm gonna go backwards, and I'm going to do the thing that you're not supposed to do when you're teaching somebody something. And I'm going to answer my own questions and give my own examples, just for the sake of timing. So just keep that in mind. I am going to divide up what is basically the online proposal into three main sections. So basically, and then I'm going to tell you like why we're doing this. So I'm going to go backwards. Okay. So three main sections. Our first section, let me just dive in here. Hopefully thumbs up if you can see that okay. Just want to double, okay, good. So there's a section in the proposal under the general information that is just basically asking, tell us about your community, okay? So point number one, this is the main piece where you get to, one, brag as much as possible, highlight different things about your community. I think the example that I want to use is think about it as all those details. If you were traveling somewhere or visiting a place, what are some of the things you would want to know? So the geography, tell us where you're at in the city or, urban area, reservation, plains, mountains, oceans, some of those things, what state, city you're in. Some statistics, so sharing a bit about population, demographics, give us a sense of maybe the youth demographic or the young adult demographic that you're working with, demographic of whether it's your organization, institution, or your church. this is a good space to include some of the statistics that are usually generally available to you. Oftentimes, you might get statistics from either like what do you call those, like travel or the city websites, maybe the school board website, and a number of those things, if you haven't had those readily available to you. Maybe some unique aspects of the area. Do you have the largest, I don't know, the largest church building within the Amish Mennonite community, for example? And so just kind of some unique aspects of the area. And then lastly, the ministry and the work that you do with those desired pieces. So I think this is one of the areas also that I'd really like to encourage you to maybe not approach it from like a deficit-based language. And by that, I mean, share about this is our space where we get to glorify God's work, and just the beauty of the ministry that we're doing. And within that, just what we've been called to do in our work. So as your organization, institution, your church, what it is that you're doing. Yes, you may be addressing some obstacles, some hardships for the community that you're in. I think that's oftentimes a reality of our ministry, is meeting some sort of need. But I'd encourage you to take that space to highlight some of the work that you're doing and why you're doing it, and to start naming maybe some desired objectives within that. So again, very general. I chose this as section 1, mainly because the more details and work you do in this space, the easier it is going to be for the reader, the summer service program coordinator, selection committee folks, to get a better sense of who you are and why it is that you're, applying for the program and wanting to participate in this piece, and what it is that you're hoping to accomplish. So I failed to note at the beginning, sorry, that we will have a Q&A time at the end, but if you have questions along the way, feel free to post those in the chat. And I know our friend Laura is going to help us out with some of those things. So that was point number 1, the general information section. Okay. Point number 2, goals and outcomes. Can you guys see that okay? Thumbs up. Okay, I see some head nods. Goals and outcomes, very confusing language. I am not going to go into the specifics on how to write a SMART goal. We could take like a whole college course on how to do that. So I'm going to keep it very basic. I think what is important here to think about is that, yes, they can be very similar. And at the same time, some folks say like the goals are the big picture umbrella piece and the outcomes are the little things. Other folks will say the outcomes are the big picture ones and the goals are the little ones. I think that the piece that I'd like for you to keep in mind is that if you think about outcomes are what you're hoping to achieve once you've accomplished your goals, okay? They both talk about the direction that you're going, where you're hoping to be at the end of the project, at the end of programming. And so with that, some goals, they should be measurable, right? They should describe where you want to be in the future. And then goals are often described of having that SMART goal process, SMART being an acronym for simple, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. I hope I got those right. I try to do them off the top of my head. And you can, easily search for a bit more information on that if you want them very technical. But that being said, you want it something to be measurable and try to keep it as specific as possible. There's 2 pieces with that. One, if you're new to this, let's say this is your first time filling out this application, first time being part of the programming or engaging in in this type of process, it's going to be healthy for you as an organizational leader, as a church leader, but then also for the young adult participant that's going to be the summer service participant. Going into the programming, to have some really good clarity of what are some of the goals that we're hoping to accomplish down the road. I'm going to skip over to outcomes just to highlight a few things, and then I'll talk briefly about both of them again. So outcomes, again, talk about direction, what you're hoping to accomplish, let's say after the fact. They should still be measurable, in some way, whether we're going to talk about quantitative or qualitative pieces. Again, quantitative just being more numerical or percents. Qualitative, just talking about maybe some of the change in behavior that we'd like to see after our programming. Yeah, and I mentioned it's often a measure, after the fact of some of the activities. And so one of the examples that I'd like to use is let's say you're running an after school program and you're wanting to do an emphasis on bullying, right? One of the outcomes that you might identify is we're looking to have this change in behavior by the end of our summer programming and the number of bullying incidences that we see with our student participants. So again, we have some measure, maybe a lower percent of incidences, right, that are coming to the teacher or the principal or administrative program is having to deal with. A goal that we might identify within that piece. Maybe we can say the number of workshops that we're going to do within the next 8 weeks at our school site, because we're running an 8-week after school program. And we'd like to see 90% attendance of these students. And let's say we're working with junior high students. And so again, let's say we do 2 a week, 8 weeks. So we're going to say 16 workshops around the topic of bullying for the next 8 weeks with a 90% attendance rate of the junior high participants. So just trying to do some give you some example of some specifics. And I see Jess smiling. I wonder if you work with junior high kids and thinking, oh man, 90% attendance for junior high kids. So I'm just assuming that they're already attending. And so it's going to be easy to have them come back, and that the teacher is so dynamic that they're going to want to come back and participate and be part of the activities. But again, just wanting to provide you an example to give you some specifics as we think about, maybe writing out a SMART goal or having it be measurable and connecting it back to our outcome, right? So at the end of our programming, if we're tracking attendance, we're going to know what our percent of our attendance was, and maybe with the outcome, first semester school, so fall semester, let's say kids, assuming, kids are returning back to the classroom or something, we'll be able to maybe track, let's say, that larger percent of bullying cases that we might find at the junior high level to identify whether we saw a change in behavior. And so, maybe you yourself as a ministry may not have full control of everything, but you're still, supporting some sort of ministry and project there. One of my recommendations would be if you're new to this, even if you're not new, the simpler the better, So I think, with any project, 1 or 2 outcomes, right? 1 or 2 umbrella big picture outcomes, maybe 2 to 3 goals per outcome, right? So kind of simplifying it, doing it in a way where it's a lot more clear. I think if you start getting into the space where you have, 5 or 6 different outcomes and they each have 3 to 5 goals, like that's a lot. Maybe you're connecting our summer service programming with, a parallel project that you might already be doing, and some of that language is already identified. Then that's great. If you're starting from scratch, the simpler you can keep it, or the more simplified you can approach it, I think the easier it'll be, both one for your institution, your church, and your leadership role and your team, but also for the young adult summer service participant. Okay. Let's see, point 3, my last point, kind of area of the proposal. When you go back and fill out the proposal, you'll see that these are sort of some of the main sections within that. They're just blank spaces where you'll be filling in the blanks. So I wanted to focus on the main ones. The last one is the support structure. So in this section, it talks about who's on the advisory team, what are their roles, I don't remember exactly how the question is phrased, but I think it has something to how will you be meeting, or how will the support be accomplished for the summer service participant. This is a very important piece that I don't want to lose sight of, mainly because our summer service program is not just a ministry of your organization or institution or your church. It's not just a grant management type program, right? It's a leadership development. The emphasis of the program is for leadership development of young adults. And so I want to keep that in mind. And so building these support structures, it's very important to take note of that. And I'm going to share some examples in a bit, and I know I'm going to overemphasize them just to draw out my point. And so if you feel that I'm amplifying it too much, I think that's fine. We can talk about that after the fact. But think about the roles. So in this piece, maybe don't just name, okay, it's, you know, Mike the pastor, you know, or Debbie the pastor, Debbie the ministry leader. But give, you know, if you're going to identify titles, also please note their roles and why they're being asked to be a part of the advisory team, right? I think another key piece to this is the how. And really what I want to emphasize here, as you can see, is the accountability and some of the communication expectations. You know, we might have a 50-year-old pastor leader who's doing a phone call at 8 a.m. because they've already had, you know, 2 hours of being awake and getting ready for the day, because that's what they typically do. And they're calling at 8 a.m. our 18-year-old young adult summer service participant who's probably still asleep, maybe just rolled out of bed, right? And the call is canceled, but then they get a text response back, right? Maybe at 9 p.m. later in the day, because that's when they're remembering and thinking about their meeting the next day, right? As to what's taking place. And so identifying some of these communication dynamics and expectations really of how this is going to take place will really, one, not only help you and your ministry and your project accomplish some of those desired goals and outcomes, but also for the young adult to have a leadership development type experience. I've worked a lot with college students in some of my previous roles. And so, you know, as their supervisor, they're my subordinate, I've had some of my staff say to me like, Mike, instead of emailing, can you just copy and paste and send me a text of the meeting agenda and some of those other things? And just recognizing that that's how they operate, right? And I think one time I got a response of, well, I shared in my IG, my Instagram, right, what took place at tutoring. So I just figured you would read about it then and find out what happened, and we can talk about it in the meeting. So I'm seeing some smiles. So you're recognizing Taylor's smiling. I'm sure she works with college students and is kind of catching on to what I'm saying. So just clarity on that expectation, right? Like, business world operates in email, right? Like, are we going to communicate by email? Are we doing phone calls? Are text messages okay? What gets communicated? How frequently? Some of those things. The more clear you are going to be about that, and when you have, you know, your meeting and you're coming together with the advisory team and the participants, the result of what takes place at the end of the day will be that much deeper. I think that much more robust. And the accountability, it also allows the young adult participant to know also what the what the responsibility is for the other folks on the advisory team, right? And the expectation. And I think at the end of the day, it'll add value. It'll add value to the work that's taking place and who's doing what and what we're doing. Okay. So again, three main areas. We had the description, one general description of the community. The second one was our outcomes and our goals. And then the third, lastly, was that support structure, right? What is that going to look like? And when you go back and you're filling out sort of the application proposal online, you'll get a sense of how those three main areas connect. And if you've done your homework in those three areas, I can guarantee you that the rest of the blanks or spaces that need to be filled out will come a lot more easily. I mentioned at the beginning that I'm going to work backwards. So typically we may have started with this. I just wanted to make sure I gave you the meat of the pieces and that I wouldn't run time at the end and I'm, rushing on those details. Why are we doing this? Why are we here? It's really about the improvements to our selection process as MCC and the summer service program. So, as coordinators are reading through applications, well, one main piece, a tangible piece, is that we're doing a switch from a paper form application to an online format. Okay, so that's one main piece. The second piece is the selection process that occurs. And so there's a number of different pieces to that puzzle. Part of why we're doing this webinar, this session, it falls in line with our partner accompaniment principles and values that we have within MCC, more of an operating principle. So Sankar mentioned at the beginning that I work with operating principles. So it's really part of the DNA that how we work as MCC. Many of our projects and the way we approach our work, especially in the international sector and international programming, and even domestically in the US and Canada, we have a partner accompaniment model. And that's not just about a hand-holding approach, but walking side by side, shoulder to shoulder, and providing support. And so, one example I can give it, if you're a new organization, a new ministry, this is your first time out of the church participating in this. Let's say maybe you're so new that you've never applied for a program and a grant process. Hopefully this process will give you some of that insight and some of those tools and enhance your awareness that then, further down the road, you can access more. I think sometimes maybe going the other way, maybe your experience, maybe I'll pick on my Fresno Pacific folks, as an alum from there, Brian and Taylor. I think sometimes we, as a university institution, maybe we get caught up and too many of the details, and we have like case student body pieces, alum, faculty, what's going on, academia. You have this maybe wrestling between academic affairs and student affairs and what's going on there. Sometimes taking a step back and just simplifying some of those different elements and saying it's really about the leadership development of our young adults at the end of the day. Will allow us to breathe and draw some simplicity and some emphasis. And I really think that allows for the participant to have a stronger depth of experience as they're going through the program. It's really about them, right? It's not about the nice report we get to write and maybe submit to our boards or coordinators or staff at the end of the day. I mentioned selection process. Wanting to give coordinators have a desire. I don't know if mandate is the right word. And Laura, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Sankar, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But, working with churches, projects, institutions with an emphasis on peace and social justice, with an emphasis on the using the term BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color led organizations. And so, in the wave of some of our COVID reality, to use that terminology, MCC relies on donations, for how we operate programs, how we manage staff, what we do moving forward. And so let's say, I'll pick on Laura since she's on the call. Her coordinator only has funding available for 15 projects. And let's say she gets 20 applications. Now she has a dilemma, right? An internal conflict trying to sort out what to do. So does she select the top 15 projects that she feel, fulfill all these elements? Or does she reduce the funding amount and fund all 20 projects and every project gets less money? And so there's some, I'm not saying she's going to do that. I'm just, giving out a broad example. But having more robust applications will really support this decision-making process. And that might be my last piece. Oh, one last point. So as, last piece, just the stewardship and the accountability of it all. We have a board, we have donors, MCC works for as a reflection of our Anabaptist, denominations and churches. And so there's a stewardship and an accountability element from there. There's a passage in the story that I lean on when it comes to some of these stewardship and accountability pieces. And that's where Jesus feeds the 5,000. And I think I have it on here. And this one is from the New Living Translation. And I'm going to use the passage. It's repeated in the Gospels, but from John 6. And I'm going to read it quickly, and then I'll draw it as my closing point, just draw emphasis to some of the statements. It says, after this, sorry, let me backtrack. You'll notice in the John passage, the level of, in my mind, of detail and just the accountability that takes place. And I'll point those out. So starting at verse 1, after this, Jesus crossed over to the far side of the Sea of Galilee, also known as the Sea of Tiberias. A huge crowd kept following him wherever he went because they saw his miraculous signs as he healed the sick. Then Jesus climbed a hill and sat down with his disciples around him. It was nearly time for the Jewish Passover celebration. Jesus soon saw a huge crowd of people coming to look for him. Turning to Philip, he asked, "Where can we buy bread to feed all these people?" He was testing Philip, for he already knew what he was going to do. And Philip replied, "Even if we worked for months, we wouldn't have enough money to feed them." Then Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. "There's a young boy here with 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what good is that with this huge crowd?" Now, if I was, doing this story with a group of children and young adults, I might answer like, "And then they robbed the kid of the loaves and the bread." And I'm just kidding. "Tell everyone to sit down," Jesus said. So they all sat down on the grassy slopes. Then men alone numbered about 5,000. Then Jesus took the loaves, gave thanks to God, and distributed them to the people. Afterward, he did the same with the fish, and they all ate as much as they wanted. After everyone was full, Jesus told his disciples, "Now gather the leftovers so that nothing is wasted." So for me, in reading it, there's a few details that stick out. And it's the sense of you get this sort of visual of like, then Jesus climbed the hill and sat down with his disciples around him, and you even get a sense of the timing. It's around the Jewish Passover time. It gives you a sense of the immensity of just like the disciples' reactions right away. Like, man, we have to work for months and we still wouldn't have enough to feed the crowd, right? And then that space of the miracle at the end, like afterwards, or sorry, where's in verse 11, and they all ate as much as they wanted, and after everyone was full, they gathered the leftovers and nothing was wasted, right? And so I say that as a way to give emphasis to the stewardship and the sense of accountability, right? We want to be good stewards of, let's say, not just the funding and the grant aspect of it that's either coming from your church, institution, organization, and MCC, but also the time and the process that the young adult is going to go through in the ministry, right, that we've called to do, and the accountability within that, right, that is kind of that overarching umbrella. And so I will stop my screen share there. Those are all the notes and details that I have for now. I did see there were some questions that came up, so I'm not sure, Laura, if there were some specifics or whether I should. I think I do have a couple minutes before going on to either Mickey or Kevin. I'm not entirely sure who's next, but I'll turn it over to Laura or Sankar to figure out what's next. What do I do?
Yeah, we can do QA at the end. That's thank you first. Thank you for leading this session. I think it was very helpful to understand. I think you did a fantastic job. Now let's shift to the other part. Now this is what Mike said is what MCC as MCC what we think about the summer service program and what our expectations are. But we would also like to hear from a couple of our long-term partners who has been with summer service program and did some fantastic work. So here, let's hear from Mickey Anderson. He's from Central States. He's a youth director of Ethiopian Evangelical Church of Denver. And he has been partner, and I think he has been a summer service participant himself, and now he supervises the summer service participants candidate. So Mickey, please take.
Yeah, thank you. So as you said, I'm out in Denver, Colorado. Our church has been in the summer very, very focused on having some kind of program. You know, obviously high school students, middle school students, summer break is like this really big gap of time where kids are sitting at home. And so we want to take advantage of that. So actually, when I was in college was my first year as a student. I gave a summer of mine to serve at my church. And then the following summer, I became a summer service worker. Our church does like an internship, and so we have like tiers, I guess. And so for the students who are interested, they join in their first year. And if they want to come back and be one of the summer service workers, we give them that opportunity. And then we apply to MCC for them. But basically, what we do is we have a community. The Ethiopian community in Denver is about 30,000 people. Our church is a church of about 2,000. When you include the adults all the way down, through this, like the young infants. But we have a group of about 70 high school students rolling. And in our community, there's a very, very big focus on education. Education is such a big thing, like college is the answer, but where our students really lack, being in immigrant families, coming to this country and your only focus is setting yourself up in a financially good place. We really lack emotional intelligence. And so we're big believers in like the Enneagram and like also, having, a constant devotional life and teaching kids how to do that, building them up spiritually and also emotionally. And so what we do is we have students come in every day, and Monday through Friday basically, and the first hour is just prayer, devotional, and then they share in a group like what they kind of went over in that hour, and then after that we have a time where there's service, whatever needs to be cleaned, whatever needs, like, if we're running a program, often we have a Bible sports camp, a youth sports camp, sorry. And so like that's for like the elementary students, and so our high school students help with that. But where we help is like, where we have the MCC summer service worker, they oversee the program, and I'm really behind the scenes a little bit. I take a step back, and they're involved with the students, and we push them. They have one-on-ones with students, while we're doing the same thing as well. And then what we do with them is we come side by side with them, and we sit down with them and just ask them how they're doing. The same as they do with students who are part of the program, we do that alongside them. And so I think it's an interesting thing. I feel like you learn more in your second go round as a leader than you do as the person who's like training. And so we have a lot of students who have turned their first summer of service like through the church and turned that into an opportunity with MCC. And we've seen a lot of students be challenged and grow in really big ways. And so I really love this program. I think it's very interesting each year, when I hear different stories about what different churches and nonprofit organizations are doing. This is an awesome grant that's used in many, many different ways. So it's really cool to hear the creativity of how we're looking to help communities through this grant. So it's an awesome thing.
Thank you, Mickey, for sharing part of your summer service program. And now I invite Kevin Smith. He is a program director from Camp Deer Park in New York City. It's just outside the New York City. So Kevin, please take your time.
Thank you. Sorry, I got a little excited when Mickey was talking because, well, let me give you an overview. So I'm Kevin, I'm from Camp Deer Park. I'm the program director here. We have our camp about 60 children, so we're kind of small. And then I have a staff of about 15 to 20. Most of our kids come from the city. And I really appreciated Mike and how he broke down the proposal process. It may seem like a lot, but believe me, it was very insightful. And it was a great overview. Now, with that being said, these are the two questions, or these are the two thoughts that stays in my mind. I've been in this position as program director for 7 years. I've always done an application, a proposal, sorry. And when I'm creating this proposal, these are the thoughts that go through my mind. I think of the who is my summer service worker? And that's why I got excited hearing Mickey, because I have had my summer service workers, but I've never heard an experience from somebody else. So there were some points I was like, yeah, that's great. The second year part, I really appreciated. So I think of the who. You have to think of the who. You guys know them better than MCC. Now you have to embellish on that. You just have to polish that up a little bit more. The who, and then also the why. Why are you writing this proposal? So who are you doing this for? You're a summer service worker, and why? And Laura and her predecessors before, I've always, in this process, in the beginning and at the end of working with MCC, I've always said, I appreciate working with MCC because it reminds me the joy of working at Camp Deer Park. So and I'll say, Mick and Mike really hit this on the head. So I'm gonna say two words that are so important, but also could be, could clash, conflicting. So simplicity, Mike spoke about how you write this proposal, kind of make it simple. And Mickey got excited about the creativity part. So how can you have something so simple, but also be so creative? But this is when I'm talking to Laura. I always say, hey, this triggers me to be creative, to make a proposal, a position. And I get that I work at Camp Deer Park. Yeah, the guy that works outside, and I work in a church. How much creativity or leeway do I have in the church? I get that. I get that, you know, this could be somewhat limited, but I do want to challenge you on the who, the person that you are doing this for, and challenge them just a little bit. And the why. You know, you're doing this um, for building leadership. So come out of that box a little bit and challenge your staff. So again, I'm almost through. 2 points is Christian camp. I'm a Christian camp, and which is outside of New York, like Shankar spoke of. So I'll just say the process of um, Camp Deer Park, and then I'll go to the proposal and how I have my summer service worker. So the process is we pull campers from the city, sometimes neighboring states, New Jersey, Connecticut. They come every year. They always get excited about being staff. They always get excited about becoming staff. So the second part is camper becomes staff. Wonderful. I like that as program director because I have staff and I have campers. And then the staff stays long enough, like myself, I was a camper here many years ago, stays long enough to become in leadership capacity. So, and that's where I love working with, as a nonprofit, I love working with MCC because we have staff that have stayed long enough, campers, sorry, that have stayed long enough to now be getting paid very well. And also in that process of campers, in that process of growing, the growth, is that now we're also developing leadership. So these are the two big things that I stay on when I'm writing the proposal. And these are 3 points, and I'm about to wrap up with this, 3 points that I keep in my mind as I'm writing the proposal. You want to empower and challenge your staff. You know your who, you know your staff. You want to empower and challenge them outside of their comfort zone, and hopefully it's work related, so work ethic. It could be also personal, you know, and things like that. So you want to empower your youth. You want to support your organization. You don't want to be so creative that you're becoming, you're going outside of your comfort zone. You know, you want to support, stay with what you know. So I've had my summer service workers have been my assistant or my camp pastor or head lead counselor. So I stay with who they are, but I also challenge them a little bit. So support your organization. You want to support yourself. And the last important thing for me, which I can't, you know, make it fun. So you want to make sure that it's fun for your summer service worker because there's growth in having fun. You know, sports are very great at instilling development. So sorry for that sideline, but anyway, so you want to make sure that you're empowering your youth, challenging them with that proposal, supporting your organization, and making sure you're having fun. But if anything, make sure you're creative. Go outside your box and know your who, know your why, and just make it become a little creative with it. All right, thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Kevin. Great suggestion, and I really like how you just summarize in 3 points. That's awesome. And I think hearing from Kevin and from Mickey, you might have realized the varieties of the summer service program. We have Kevin summer camp, and then we have our church ministry, and some of our partner in our in previous years has been doing a garden work, and some have been intern pastor in a congregation. So we have a uh, varieties of programs that our partners come up with in the proposal. So whatever your program might be this summer, just be creative and try to put that into the proposal. One of the reasons, Mike already mentioned several reasons why we are doing this webinar. One of the reason is, I think he mentioned, he touched a little bit, I want to add, is sometimes in the past, we have a great partners who has such a great program, and but that is not totally reflected in the proposal. But when our regional coordinator or sometime myself, when we go to visit the site, we see some phenomenal work that they are doing in their community. But that is not totally reflected in the proposal. And in the past, we might have not enough applications, so whatever application or proposal we receive, we might have accepted. But in future, it's possible that we may have more applicants, more proposals, and we have our selection committee. Like each region has their own selection committee. It comprises of maybe 3 to 4 people. Maybe some region does even 5 to 6 people. And when they look at the proposal, they read the proposal, and they make decision based on what is in the proposal. So we really want to encourage, just think when you are writing your proposal, think thoroughly and spend little time, and in all the 3 areas like outcomes and your goals. Uh, so yeah, that's what we want to encourage. But I don't want to take much time. I see. We have 2 new people. I see Dave and Maura, who joined recently, and maybe Paul. Yeah, please write your name. Give your name is already there, where you are from and what organizations you are with. Uh, and also we have this webinar recorded. If you want to listen or watch what we have covered, uh, free to do so. You can do. We will post this on our website. Okay, so let's do some Q&A. If you have any questions to Mike or Kevin or Laura or me or to Mickey, this time is open. Okay, either you can unmute yourself or raise your hand if you want to do that. Whatever, comfortable. Any comments? Any questions? Anything? It seems like we are a quiet group of people.
I have a question.
Sure.
Carol Rose.
Sure.
I see and very much support that you will prioritize people of color led organizations. Our church is very mixed, maybe 40% people of the global majority. And both the pastors are white so far. But we have, most of our youth are people of the global majority, and our young adults are a mix there. So does it make sense for us to apply?
I would say yes, absolutely. We have, in the past, we have an organizer who are led by a white, but one requirement is the young adult must be the people of color. And we prioritize if we have, say, if we have to pick one organization who has equally great proposal, but one is a white or one is a organization of color, then if we have to pick one, then we might pick the organization of color. But yes, we welcome you and your proposal. Any, I think she had a great question. If you have any such question, please. Yes, please.
Yeah, and forgive me, I'm really new, and so a lot of this is very new to me. I've been looking around online to find the details, and it looks like the handbook is from 2020, and some of the details from 2021 are up. But in terms of like starting and ending dates and other things that are really specific, I'm still not sure if I found all the information I'm supposed to find. Can you tell me where I could look to find all those sorts of things?
I am sorry that you did not find that information. If I will make sure to update, but it should be on our website. If you go to summer service website, which I will share right here on our chat box, it should be there.
Yeah, so if you go to the application page, which Shankar just shared the link to, you will see a hyperlink at the top of that page that has the program activity timeline and other logistical information. So you'll find the 2021 information right there, which you can download in an online PDF. But yeah, if you still have trouble finding it, please reach out.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
I saw that Glenn had a question, maybe?
Yeah, I'm just interested in knowing, have you ever had proposals that have like come from two churches that would be neighboring rather than it just being from one source?
Laura, do you want to answer this question?
Sure, I can take that one. Yeah, so often we do have organizations that collaborate and partner up through the summer service program. Typically, MCC holds kind of a partnership with one organization, and then that organization, so Capital Christian Fellowship, for example, a partnership between Capital Christian Fellowship and the other organization would be somewhat secondary, but we do encourage those kinds of relationship building, either, to support with providing the financial portion, or also if you find that you might not have 40 hours of full-time work for the young adult, then collaboration with another church or organization in your community is really encouraged. I would say as far as applying to the program and signing an MOU with MCC, that would be held primarily between just MCC and Capital Christian Fellowship, for example. Does that make sense?
Very good, very clear. Thank you.
Okay.
Helpful.
We are getting some really good questions. Yeah, and we welcome some more. And we really encourage you to apply. Try to apply, submit your proposal. It's sooner the better. So application process is already on. Now you can do it before March 12. And for our existing partner who had been with summer service program, you will notice this time, let's say application has moved entirely online. So what you do is first organization will submit the proposal. Okay, And in the proposal, we ask for, you should already have young adult in your mind, who that young adult will be serving in your organization. So we ask for their email address. So once you submit your application, we automatically send a link, application link to the young adult. So young adult has to submit their part of the application, right? And in between this deadline for organization and young adult is just 1 week. So sooner you submit your proposal, the more time your young adult will have to think and give constructive and good answers, in the application. So yeah, keep that in your mind. Seems like we don't have any questions or comments. Mike, do you have anything to share here? No.
No, just yeah, a note reminder. You'll probably see it in PDF form, but the notes from the presentation, and then there should be a bit of a, I'll call it a cheat sheet on the call for now, for filling out the proposal on sort of those 3 main points that I covered will also be shared, and that'll be available in English and Spanish, since we had translation take place. And yeah, I'll refer you back to Laura or Sankar if you have any questions.
And I just want to say this one blunder thing that I did during this session is I am extremely sorry that we have Erica, who has been very patiently translating all our conversation, everything in Spanish. And I forgot to introduce her. Let's give a huge applause to Erica. Thank you, Erica. All right, guys, thank you very much. We really appreciate your time. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach me out. I know some of you have already done that, and we welcome your feedback and your questions and your suggestions. Thank you. Have a very good day.
Thank you, Shankar.
Thanks.
Thank you.